Hi there, my name is Aaron Young, CEO and Chairman of Laughlin Associates, and I want to take a minute with you right now to talk about a strategy. Maybe you've already gone through this with one of our consultants. Maybe you've seen us talk about this at a live event or maybe even in a webinar, usually not in a webinar, but for whatever reason, you've made it here to this page and to this video, and what I want to do is teach you about one of the most critical, one of the most important, one of the most versatile and useful strategies that you can use and deploy as a business owner. Today we're going to take a few minutes and talk about control versus ownership. John D. Rockefeller, who was one of the richest men in the world, and you're all familiar with Rockefeller, but he was supposed to have said on his deathbed to his children that the secret to success is to own nothing but control everything. Own nothing but control everything. And this is something we're going to show you how to use multiple entities to own nothing, control everything. And we call that strategy the Rockefeller Strategy, and then we have another strategy that's an extension of the Rockefeller Strategy called the Walton Strategy. Here's a picture of Sam Walton. His representative, Lance Morgan, said that the estate planning practices that the Walton family used are broadly available and commonly used among the wealthy, among the informed. What we want you to be is informed. What we want for you is to become wealthy. And by having strategies employed by Rockefeller and by Walton, you have a dramatically greater opportunity to build enormous wealth, to protect it from outside challenges like lawsuits and audits, and to be able to deploy it as you need to, and eventually pass it on to the next generation. That's what we're going to take about the next maybe 10 minutes and talk about. The Rockefeller strategy is a dual entity strategy, meaning we're going to use more than one business entity, corporations, LLCs, limited partnerships, and so on. The whole goal of the strategy is to remove the incentive for somebody to sue you. What we want to do is stop lawsuits before they start. Doesn't that sound like a great thing? Let's stop those lawsuits before they start, because folks, a lawsuit is a terrible thing. If you've never been through a lawsuit, then you've seen it on TV or in movies, and you may have some sort of logical understanding that it's a bad thing. But if you've ever been through a lawsuit, you have a very emotional, a very physical reaction to it. You know that stress and depression and sleepless nights and fighting with your spouse and your business partner and sometimes divorce and even suicide can happen when you're going through really, really heavy litigation. At the very least, it's a pain in the backside to go through a lawsuit, and it's always expensive. So what we want to do is stop those before they even start. Here's how we do it. We want to take away the incentive to be sued. We want to form a new corporation that's a legal, separate person, a paper person, separate from you, different than you. And we also want to create, now, oh my gosh, these are some of the most magical words once you understand them. We want to create a friendly priority creditor. A friendly priority creditor. Here's how it works. First of all, remember we need to come up with a new corporation. So your operating company is the business you have now. It's the one that has a website and that you have business cards and signs and banners, and you go out to trade shows and networking events, and you tell everybody about your operating company. You buy advertising for it. This is where you try to drive customers, is your operating business. The new company in this strategy is called the holding company. Or if you're brand new or you're just taking some assets from some other place and you're getting ready to go into a new venture, the holding company is the one that's going to receive the money, the intellectual property, the value. And they're going to separate that stuff into the holding company, and the holding company is not going to really do business with the rest of the world. It's only going to do business with the operating company. The holding company has limited risk because of limited exposure. Nobody knows it's there. Okay? The holding company is going to have all the things that you find most valuable. Real estate investments you have, equity in your home, trademarks and other kinds of intellectual property. If you're buying big stocks of inventory, if you have equipment, like let's say you have an excavation business, you have dump trucks and track hoes and mini excavators and all kinds of stuff, the holding company is going to own all this kind of stuff. Then what happens is the holding company and the operating company decide that they're going to do business together. As a matter of fact, the operating company in our example is going to need something from the holding company. So remember, the holding company holds all the valuable assets. The operating company, high exposure, high risk, but really low value because it doesn't own very much of anything, right? So in our example, what we're going to do is the holding company is going to loan money to the operating company. So here's how it would work. This would be just like if you went over to the bank and you took a loan, or you borrowed money from a friend or from a venture capitalist. The loan, well, venture capitalists would get equity, never mind. If it was somebody giving you a loan, the loan would go over from the holding company to the operating company. There'd be a promissory note that says, here's the agreement. You're going to pay the money back in this way. You know, this many payments of this many dollars over this period of time at this interest rate, and then you would start making payments and paying interest. It's really critical that you always have an interest rate associated with the deal, because unless you're borrowing money from your mom and dad or your grandma or somebody, anybody that's going to loan you money is going to want you to pay it back with interest. If you go to a bank or any kind of hard money lender, they're always going to want interest. And what we want to do is make sure this is a typical, traditional, standard kind of a loan agreement. So the money goes over from the holding company to the operating company. There's a contract that describes the relationship between the two companies. A payment begins to be made every month or based on the terms of the promissory note. And then this is critical, folks. We file a lien. The holding company files UCC1 liens against the operating company. It could also go further, and it could lien other things of value of the owners of the operating company. So, for example, if you had equity in your home could be liened by the holding company. The goal is to take all of the potential targets from people who'd want to come after you or your operating business, and let's take away those things so there's nothing to get in a frivolous lawsuit. Now, let's go a little further with this. First of all, let's be clear. In this example, there has to be a resolution in your corporate books authorizing this agreement. There has to be a promissory note, a demand note, a mortgage, a licensing agreement, some sort of contract that explains the relationship. There must be an interest rate, and then you perfect the security agreement by getting some sort of a personal guarantee and liens against the holding or the operating company by the holding company. Now, in this strategy, the holding company is quite often in Nevada. Why? Because Nevada offers complete and utter privacy for the shareholder. The shareholder is not in the public record. The state of Nevada doesn't know who owns the company. There's no state income tax. Officers and directors have indemnification in lawsuits. Nevada corporations, as well as LLCs, have charging order protection, which means your ownership cannot be taken away. The worst that could happen is a charging order. And if you don't know what charging order is, I'm not going to go into that now, but you can go back to your consultant and ask them about the details of charging order protection. Write that down if you think that may be interesting to you. Officers and directors, there is no other state that protects officers and directors like Nevada. And as I said, shareholders are private. So this dual entity strategy gives you privacy. Nobody knows who owns the Nevada company. Tax benefits, because the operating company is now going to be making payments back with interest that can be written off back to a place in Nevada where there's no state income tax. You've got asset protection because the operating company, the one that's doing business with the world, is basically mortgaged and committed up to the full level of its value back to this Nevada holding company. And the Nevada company has become the priority creditor, a friendly priority creditor. So reviewing, the Rockefeller takes away the incentive to sue. You want to stop lawsuits before they start. If a lawyer who is going to be working on contingency, which is most of the litigation against small businesses, is contingency litigation. If a lawyer who works on commission looks at you, looks at your operating business and says, oh my gosh, well, yeah, they have a lot of activity here, but they have a tremendous amount of debt and they've got liens against them, and there's not much to get, and even if I win, I don't know how I'm going to collect. Let's stop the lawsuit before it starts. The holding company becomes a separate legal paper person. That now these two companies, and it's not you, it's this corporation, and nobody knows who owns it, and it's in a state like Nevada with total privacy. The goal is to make the private Nevada corporation the friendly priority creditor, so that if something happens to the holding company or the operating company, the holding company is first in line to get paid before any other judgment, any other potential creditor. Now, there's a couple things you need to know. In order for the Nevada company to be recognized in the court as a legitimate Nevada company, it has to have a headquarters in Nevada. And the Rockefeller Strategy, as we lay it out, includes providing an office, a phone number, a live operator answering your phone, the mail for that company coming to Nevada, to your own suite, that's then remailed to wherever you want it to go. Your business license is hanging on the wall. You have relationships with third-party creditors there. You have contracts with companies in Nevada, a phone number, a bank account. Everything you need to prove that you're really in Nevada is fundamental and included in the Rockefeller Strategy. All the filings are done, the paperwork issues, the board-related formalities, that is, say, regular board meetings, minutes of those meetings, resolutions of decisions made in those meetings, issuance of stock, management of the stock ledger, the annual shareholders meeting, all of that is taken care of within the Rockefeller Strategy. There are also some other common questions that we should talk about. People say, well, if I set up this strategy and I have to make a payment with interest, what should that be? How much should it be? Well, Nevada doesn't have any commercial usury laws. In other words, Nevada says pick your own interest rate. So imagine this. If your operating business, the operating business, is making tons of money, hand over fist, do you think maybe it could afford to pay a higher interest rate? Maybe the Nevada company is going to charge a high interest rate against that very, very successful company. Or the reverse of that would be, let's say that the operating business is just getting started. Money is tight, but it needs this influx of capital to get going. Well, the Nevada company could charge a very low interest rate. As a matter of fact, it could charge maybe just a once-a-year interest-only payment for the first 5 years on that. I promise you the Nevada company will be a very flexible creditor for you. How do I take money out of the Rockefeller Strategy? Well, first of all, remember the Rockefeller Strategy is designed to take resources that you already have right now available to you. Instead of taking all of that money from, like, maybe let's say you're redirecting money from an IRA, or you've inherited the money, or you've just made a bunch of money and saved a bunch of money and you want to start investing in real estate. Instead of doing that all in your name or in the name of the operating business, what you've done now is you've put together a strategy where the money goes into the Rockefeller company and then is loaned to the operating business. So how do I take money out? Well, you just borrow money out of the Rockefeller. You make sure there's an agreement. You make sure there's an interest, a payment with interest, and that there's a lien. It's exactly the way I described the strategy to you a minute ago. What if you have to go get a loan or refinance? Well, the Nevada company is friendly, remember? So if, let's say you had put a lien against the owner of the operating business's home, Maybe your home has a lot of equity, and that's one of the things that was liened by the Rockefeller Company. Well, if you need to go out and refinance your house, the Rockefeller Company will be very willing to take a second position or third position on your home or release the lien completely if that's what you need. Because remember, at the end of the day, this is your strategy. So then that comes to this next one. Is this even legal? Yes, it's completely legal. This is how companies do business with themselves. I was made aware of a conversation between my business partner and the CFO of a very, very successful multi-billion-dollar technology company that all of you listening to me have heard of. And the CFO was saying that he had responsibility for over 3,000 small companies that owned a little piece of intellectual property, had a bank account, had a contract, all kinds of things, all in different companies. These companies had agreements with each other. They did business back and forth, even though they were all ultimately controlled by this one gigantic technology firm. This is how wealthy people manage their affairs, by dividing them, by protecting them, by keeping elements of their finances private, by using the laws of jurisdictions like Nevada to keep them private. Has the strategy ever been tested? Well, we've been doing this strategy for thousands of companies for over 30 years, and we've never had one of these breached, although many of those clients have gone through divorces, audits, lawsuits, partnership breakups. The issue is this: if you follow the law will protect you. So if you try to do this yourself, or you try to do it cheaply, or you try to skip steps, then the strategy will not work. It will not protect you. But if you do it properly and you follow all the steps and you follow all of the law, then you will have bulletproof asset protection. So this leads to the last question here. This is also overwhelming. How am I going to manage all of this? Well, folks, that's the great part, is that you don't have to know how to manage all this. Once you say, let's go, and we put the pieces in place, then the truth is that you have people within the Laughlin company and the Laughlin family that do all the heavy lifting for you. What you have to do is say, yes, I want bulletproof asset protection. Yes, I want to build a wall around my assets. Yes, I want to be able to have privacy in my dealings. I want these benefits. As soon as you say yes, we'll make sure that happens. So in conclusion, the strategy takes away the incentive to be sued. The Nevada Corporation becomes a priority creditor. Sometimes we go a step further in the Walton strategy, and the Nevada Corporation is owned by yet another company, which is a limited partnership. We do that for estate planning purposes. So your children, for instance, or other organizations that matter to you actually are the beneficial owner even of the Nevada holding company. This is the Walton strategy. This is how Sam Walton's went from showing up on the Forbes list as the richest man in the world to, when he died, his wife and children all popping up on the list the next year with just over $20 billion each. And the fact was that they had always owned it because they were the limited partners in a limited partnership. And when the managing partner, the general partner, died, all of the limiteds got their stuff. And that's how it went from being none of the Walton kids or Mrs. Walton on the Forbes list to all of them on there with $20 billion. And by the way, there was no tax in that transfer. The strategy works regardless of the loan amounts that you need to do. If you have huge money or you have a relatively small estate you need to use in this, it always works. And the most important part of this is you have a friendly priority creditor. Remember, first in time, first in line. So if this review has been helpful, if you want to go back now to your consultant and talk to them about how do we put your specific pieces into place inside of a Rockefeller or a Walton strategy so that you have asset protection, you have greater tax reduction, you have privacy, And in the Walton strategy, you have the ultimate in estate planning. If that's interesting to you, go back, call the number on the screen here, go back to your consultant and email them and say, I'm ready to go back and discover exactly how this can work for me. When you put the Rockefeller strategy into place, or the Walton strategy into place, it will become one of the greatest pieces of comfort in your life. The number one thing that our clients who use these strategies, and believe me, once they start this, they use it for the rest of their lives. The folks that put these strategies in place say the number one benefit they get is peace of mind. We want you to have that peace